Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto, Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the entire United States of America. Good morning to the entire world receiving the signals from our internet, formerly known as the ARPANET, created by we the people. Every great thing in this country, every great technological advance in this country, everything that we've done in this country came about because of we the people, because of you. We have a special program for you today, but before we get started, we'll pass it on to our great geniuses in the studio.
We're still looking for those guys.
Yeah.
Jack, have you seen any geniuses around here?
I haven't seen them in 2 years.
Oh, me neither. Well, it is Friday, the 21st of February, 2025, and good morning to you, Egberto, and good morning to the entire world. So don't have anything from me this morning, no rants and no screaming. So we got Jack and his wisdom. Let's switch over to Jack and see what he's got to say.
All right. Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
Good morning, Jack. Talk to me, my dear brother. Talk to me.
Okay, I'm going to give you your headlines back. Trump lies exposed. If you think Trump is going to give $5,000 to each household because of DOGE savings, think again. This administration only takes money. Any savings they find, they are going to pocket. This is another lie meant to get you all excited emotionally and then let you down. You're being gaslit. Trump and Wonder Boy Musk dropped the farmers in the mud by freezing funds from Joe Biden's Inflation Reduction Act. Trump betrays millions who thought he could lower their cost.
Yeah, they sort of elected a Trojan horse.
Anyway, folks, we are going to have a great show for you today. We already have in the house on our chat, Joe from Los Angeles, California. We also have Jay Ray says, good morning to everyone and the geniuses in the booth. I appreciate you all. Thank you guys for all that you do. Folks, we have quite a lot of territory to cover here. And at the same time, we have to raise north of $400. So before I get started with this very important stuff that I need to talk about, I want to ask you early on to please give us whatever you can to keep these voices on air with this necessary information, because you're going to learn a hell of a lot today. We are going to learn a hell of a lot today now, but we also have to get this pitch going. We also have to bring the Politics Done Right piece of the pie. We have got to do it to make sure we can continue doing what we're doing right now. So I ask you, as kindly as I can, what can you offer us? We are hunting, we're asking so that we can reduce the number of fund drives for people to please step up and say, I am going to give 1 coffee a month. I'm going to give 2 coffees a month, 3 coffees a month. That's $5, $10, $15 a month. Or I may want to show my appreciation. You know what? I don't want to have my card hit. I want just give me a T-shirt for $100. Do whatever you can. The thing about it is support this program. As you know, we put the work into it. Jack is here every morning, leaving the south. It's one of the south ends of this area to drive all the way up in the mornings for something. Jack's on the road to get to this program. Same with our brother Howard, making sure that the transmitter is up. And of course, Sandy is putting all this volunteer work in as well at the station. We make sure to bring this to you. So I ask you kindly, give whatever you can. Folks, this is real. We don't get any money from the government. This gives us the freedom, even under a fascist government. At this point, it gives us the freedom to tell you the truth. And what you're going to learn today is the truth. I promise on everything that this is the truth. A lot of times on mainstream media, you have to hear this one says this one says that, as opposed to these journalists who know the truth being able to say, no, Trump, you're lying. No, Marco Rubio, you're lying because previously you said this. No, you're lying. We can still do that while we still have a democracy, a fleeting one, but still have a democracy. We will be here to inform. We're starting the program in a minute, folks, but I'm asking you to call right now. I have two great videos that I hope to get to, but folks, we need to get those in to make sure this show can stay on air. All right, Jack started out with the $5,000 that Trump kind of threw into the ethos to tell you, what monies we're saving from DOGE, we may just give 20% back to the American people, 20% back to pay the debt, and then the 60%, he doesn't say what he's doing with it. We know that probably means 60% for tax cuts. Okay. But, the guy makes the assumption that you're just going to listen to his words. You make the assumption that you're not a very smart person. And he says that's what he likes. So I did a piece late last night, after watching one of the programs. I said, you know what? I need to cut this out for all of you to hear. And specifically, not for the choir to hear, but specifically for my good friends, my MAGA listeners to hear. And because we can still do something about maintaining the democracy, something about maintaining the American lifestyle. I want you to listen to this. Let me see if I have it queued up correctly. I think I do. And then we'll take it on the other side. DOGE is failing to come up with any kind of numbers that would really show a whole bunch of fraud or efficiency or anything like that. But Donald Trump is starting to realize he's in trouble. So he's trying to buy time by promising Americans that, hey, we're going to give you $5,000 each household. And how are we going to do that? With the savings that we got from DOGE. 20% is going to go to the American people. 20% is going to go to pay the debt. Of course, we don't know what happens to the next 60%, like the tax cuts. But here's the reality. The amount of money they're finding is chump change. Less than a half a cup of coffee at Starbucks per person in the United States. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
There's even under consideration a new concept where we give 20% of the DOGE savings to American citizens and 20% goes to paying down debt.
I am sitting here frantically writing down these numbers because they don't add up to me. It is time for money power politics. Donald Trump and Elon Musk have both floated this idea of giving DOGE dividend checks to taxpayers using the money saved from its cost-cutting efforts. But a senior fellow at the conservative Manhattan Institute tells the Washington Post, DOGE has reduced spending by $4 billion at most, far, far, far from Musk's $2 trillion goal. As she puts it, quote, the American people could possibly take their dividend to Starbucks for half off of one cup of coffee. Justin, explain this math to me. The Musk plan is to cut $2 trillion in federal spending. Okay. The Trump team says it's going to deliver $5,000 per household. All of that's happening while Republicans are trying to pass a new budget that increases spending by $300 billion, and they want to have massive tax cuts for corporations. How is this possible?
This is what happens when a numeracy hits ambition. So just before coming on the show, I went to the DOGE website where they show line by line every one of their savings. It adds up to $7.3 billion, which sounds like a lot, but remember there are 340 million Americans. So far, DOGE's savings add up to $21.47 per American. The president is proposing that 20% of the money DOGE saves goes out as a dividend check. So, Stephanie, you and each of your viewers is going to get $4.29 in a DOGE dividend. And this is what happens when you don't understand that you're looking in the wrong places for the big money.
Okay, but Brian, even if they found a ton of money to cut, right? Even if the money to the American people was a lot more than $5,000, here's what I don't understand. The point of DOGE is to pay down our debt, right? We currently have $36 trillion in debt in this country. And the fact that they would be willing, theoretically, to take 20% of the DOGE savings and send it out to the American people as checks, isn't that just one big political hustle? Because Donald Trump knows how popular it was when those stimulus checks with his name on it got sent around. And we should remind our audience those stimulus checks were approved not via executive order. Congress did it.
It is. And I think it speaks to, I'll leave the economics of it to Justin, but it seems like so much of this is for show and so much of it is PR and so much of it is just making it seem like you're doing something. And let's remember too, a lot of the savings that they are showing and they're emphasizing, that's just thousands of federal workers who are out of a job now for no reason other than that they had just started their job within the last 2 years or just gotten promoted recently. It's built on the backs of massive layoffs of people who are working on bettering Americans' position in science, in humanitarian aid, and protecting people from fraud. If you were really serious about paying down the deficit, you probably wouldn't fire thousands of IRS workers whose job is to increase revenue. That's why they are there. So all of this seems deeply cynical and sort of speaks to the larger emptiness of the whole DOGE project.
A reminder, I just told our audience last night when the Inflation Reduction Act designated additional money to the IRS, what did that result in? The IRS bringing in more money from taxpayers. Justin, I want to get your take also on Trump's newly confirmed Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, telling Fox News that his goal is to abolish the IRS completely. And where are we going to find the money? Well, massive tariffs. The rest of them will pay for us.
Well, the problem with that is it's quite simply impossible. The amount of money that we have that we could tax for a tariff is the amount of imports. That's only $3 trillion. When we tax income, we've got $20 trillion to tax. So if you're trying to tax from such a small pool, there's not that much you can get. You can't fund the modern US government purely with tariffs. It's one, literally mathematically impossible, and two, incredibly bad for the working and middle class Americans. But by jingo, it's a huge tax break to the rich.
The new acting head of Social Security made an announcement today after Elon Musk and Donald Trump claimed that millions of dead Americans were receiving Social Security benefits. Well, the new guy overseeing Social Security said that's not really happening. So there you go. Fact check from their own team. The worry is that lie has already made it around the world multiple times. So we'll have to tell the truth every night.
So once again, Donald Trump is making the assumption that the people who follow him do not have a whole lot of stairs, will not do any research, are not all that smart, that they can sit back and believe, one, that he cares about them, two, that he's going to give them some sort of check like we did during the pandemic, and three, that somehow doing all of this, he'll be able to give tax cuts and at the same time let the budget deficit fall. It's impossible. The guy's a charlatan just trying to buy time right now, and we need to call him out for it. And those of you MAGA folks that are following this guy is taking us down the drain. Again, it's you who are the pawns in his game. He doesn't give a hoot about you. Anyway, folks, that is the first. There are three stories. That's the first story that I need to get you, because that is what's going to be floated in the next few days. Oh, you're going to get some sort of a kickback. And people that are having a hard time right now, the working class that has a hard time with rent right now, they're having a hard time with the increased price in eggs and all these things right now, telling you, I'm going to give you $5,000. Let me tell you what's the magic that they're trying to do here. They're trying to say, give the American people the inkling that they're going to give them a few bucks. A check is going to come if my bill passes. And then dare any recalcitrant Republican or Democrat not to vote for that evil bill that also may have a little trinket there for the American folks to sell their soul and then lose their Medicare. A bill that has hurting Medicare, hurting Medicaid, hurting SNAP, hurting research, hurting government programs for the schools and universities where all the real research takes place, not in the private sector, in the public sector is where most medicines are delivered. Even when the private sector does research, the NIH, your tax dollars, pays private sector for research. Don't ever believe that the private sector take risks. They take your money. That's the definition of capitalism. And I know it's hard to accept because we've been snowed all our lives, but everything is coming to pass. This economic system is working as designed. It is working and does exactly what it says it's supposed to do: transfer the wealth of the masses to the few who are coy enough to take it. We're going to continue, my brothers and sisters, but right now we have zero pledges. So we're going to pitch a little bit before we get to the next two subjects. DOGE exposed as these things not being real. And lastly, I need to really get you informed on what's coming next for Medicare and Medicaid. Many of you are on Medicaid. Those of you that have a family in a nursing home, these things really affect people. Those of you who are on Medicare, whether Medicare or Medicare Advantage, it's both going to be handled. I tell you what, if Musk really wanted to save money, he would get rid of Medicare Advantage, which costs the government a whole lot more money than traditional Medicare. But they don't tell you that, nor are they talking about that, since Project 2025 include one of the masters of and it has been hired for Medicare Advantage. But before I go any further, we're going to pitch a while, so you have time to call right now before the next subject, folks. Before we get to this other critical information, you have time to talk to us about how we can be supported. But we need to hear from you. Thank you so kindly, folks. I want to give a great salute to Lee the Bearcat from Austin, Texas. He says, "Hi, all. How are things being gutted? Isn't it fraud, waste, abuse being pointed out?" No, sir. All that savings that you're seeing thus far mostly come from laying off good, hard-working government workers. You see, when you put negative spirits into people about government not working, people tend to believe that the GOP has been doing this a long time in order to reduce forces so that people can get tax cut. But we want good service at the DMV, that's state. But we also want good service at the Social Security office, that's federal. We want good service at the post office. We want all those great things to happen. It only happens if we have good workers, good, well-paid workers. Laying off these folks is going to affect science, universities, etc. All those people in red states are starting to find out now. Our MAGA brothers and sisters are starting to find out that what's getting harmed is themselves. What's getting harmed is the people out there. Look, I was going to do a piece on. Thank you so kindly, Ravi. Thank you so kindly for being the first contributor this morning. We need quite a bit more, folks. We need quite a bit more. So please, look, I'm queuing another thing up because at first I was going to give the DOGE story, but I'm going to change up here in real time because I think my people need to hear this. Both my MAGA folk and my regular folk need to hear this. So I'm changing this on the fly right now. I want to play a video that I did yesterday on the 3 o'clock show because you need to hear this one about what's happening to our good farmers in rural states, etc. So here we go. You really can't make this stuff up. Look, we have some Trump voting MAGA farmers that enjoyed the policies of the Biden administration and they took advantage of it. And Donald Trump, they voted for, they made sure that he was president, and he came in and he froze it all. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
The Trump administration's freeze on certain federal funding has put some farmers across the country in limbo. The farmers are not receiving the critical government grants they were counting on to pay their bills. NBC News correspondent Emily Aketa brings us the details.
There's about 100 of them out there.
Kevin Levitt hoped these solar panels would help his Maine farm flourish.
The hope here is that these panels will produce enough electricity that the farm needs all year long.
He was only able to move forward with the pricey project because of a federal program that promised to shoulder roughly a third of the cost after completion. But the panels have been up and running for weeks and no sign of the $45,000 he's been counting on from the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Could you have ever imagined finding yourself in this position after taking on that agreement?
No, everything is in writing. Everything's signed. You're stressed out. You're on edge. It has a toll on you.
President Trump has signed a flurry of executive orders pausing federal funding for review, including the Inflation Reduction Act, the climate initiative passed during the Biden administration. That has grant money built in for farmers like Levitt to conserve soil, water, and energy.
I can't get any answers.
Coast to coast, farmers who overwhelmingly supported Trump in November are voicing confusion and concern.
I've already done a bunch of the work, already paid for the material, already paid for the labor, so I'm out all that cost.
It's going to reach into every state and every community nationwide. That's how far the reach of the Department of Agriculture is.
A USDA spokesperson says Secretary Rollins is aware farmers have been waiting on payments during this government-wide review and is working to make determinations as quickly as possible, citing plans to share information later this week. Until then,
what do you want people in Washington to know?
Enforce the contract that they gave to us, that they gave to everybody else, and do what it says.
Or else what?
Or else there might not be farms.
So let's talk about this, some of the unintended consequences, right, of what we've seen from Trump and Elon Musk in some ways. The freezing funding, just the plight of the farmers, also slashing all these government agencies. This is going to impact, and we're already hearing stories, including some being put forth on Fox News yesterday, I'll note, of people who were clearly voted for Donald Trump, but suddenly have had their jobs taken away because of what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, there is a precedent for this. I mean, I remember in his first term, there was a wave of early stories saying, oh, can you believe it's happening? We're going to talk to some Trump voters, and they're surprised that, you know, their life has been distracted like this. Things have been interrupted. The question is, how much do they care? I mean, how much do not the farmers care, but how much does Elon Musk and Donald Trump actually care? Did they sort of build this into the plan that, you know, look, we've already been elected. Well, Trump's been elected twice. They've already voted for us. I mean, is it sort of a slash and burn thing? I mean, Maine, obviously it's a bluish state. I mean, I guess, did the northern electoral vote go to?
I think Trump got the one.
Trump got the one. Right. But no, I mean, it is, you do see a lot of this trickle down thing, but it just doesn't seem to be part of their strategic thinking politically. And it's also a question of whether this is a politically harmful thing to them in the long run, other than a few stray voices that you hear in media reports. Now, there might be a lot of them, but it's not exactly a drumbeat that they're paying attention to.
Now, this is really pathetic, right? You have a lot of these people who, for reasons we've spoke of before, refuse to vote for Kamala Harris. In fact, there are polls that exist that show that if we took the name off of policies and ask which policies are preferred by people, they would all go for the policies that the Democratic Party stands for, that progressive stands for. Now, here we have the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. And the Inflation Reduction Act was an opportunity for two birds to be killed at one time, right? Do things that reduce inflation and do it by removing the dependency on fossil fuels, which are overpriced, highly priced. And at the same time, I shouldn't say overpriced because we don't take the externalities into consideration. The oil, to reduce the dependency on oil, and in doing so, reduce the cost for farmers by giving them the capital that they don't have necessary to invest in these types of energy systems that make their farms more efficient. And by making their farms more efficient, what happens again? The price of their products fall. And what is called when you don't have when prices of products start to fall, you don't have inflation. The Inflation Reduction Act. A lot of people wanted to make issues of why are they doing that? They're trying to cloak inflation reduction into green energy. Yeah, because you can if you invest in green energy, the overall outcome is the reduction in price, and these farmers started to see it. The people who have factories that are powered by solar power, the folks who are creating greenhouses that are powered by, solar cells, all of that, right? But the Trump, according to this AP news here, the Trump administration believes the role of government should be far more limited. Rather than solar power or energy efficiency, Trump has spoken often about his support for oil and gas, erasing environmental and climate policies created under the Biden administration. His key advisor, and that is the issue. So, folks, again, we have been snowed. You have been lied to. Farmers have been lied to. Those who heard about Medicare and Medicaid being untouched, so it's okay for this guy to do what he's doing, you have been lied to. Those important government workers have been laid off. You had Elon Musk at CPAC yesterday, with a chainsaw, laughing at the demise of human beings being cut. We have Lee the Bearcat in the chat saying, but don't layoff occur all of the time? Yes, it does in the private sector. The public sector should not behave like the private sector. It is not a business. It's there to serve. In fact, if this private sector is laying off, that pretty much tells you maybe the government sector needs more folks. Anyway, I want to welcome Dee in the chat from I don't know where. Lee the Bearcat from Austin. Neo Maxon is in the house as well. J. Ray Lawrence from Atlanta, Georgia is in the house. Joe is in the house. Look, guys, we are still at one pledge. We have a lot more to talk about. I have a lot of stuff to talk about Medicare and Medicaid, but also I am responsible for bringing in at least $400 this morning. And the fact of the matter is I'm not close. We ain't close at all. So I want to ask you kindly. I want to ask you vociferously. I want to ask you as best that I can to please give us a call at 713-526-5738. Again, that is 713-526-5738. Consider giving us a good pledge, whatever you can, 713-526-5738, or go to kpft.org, click on that donate button, select Politics Done Right as from the pull down for the show that you're going to support, and give whatever you can. We need to do this to make sure we can continue giving you and enlighten you with this information. Folks who are being snowed, the only way to get around that is actually knowing. When you don't know something, it is okay to make a mistake. But when you know something, you generally vote better. Most of you will vote your interest. Folks, we need to hear from you. I want to get started on Medicaid and Medicare, but we need to get started. We have from Lake Jackson, Texas, Jay, thank you so kindly for your contribution. We are getting closer, but we need a lot more. Thank you so kindly. You are the one who makes this thing happen. You are the ones who you are helping to subsidize informing our people, something that many times our mainstream media is not doing. Welcome aboard the chat, Gray Beard, Lee the Bearcat, Neo Maxon, Didi. Thank you guys for all being here. I'm going to hold the calls to only about 30 seconds because I want to get all this stuff in today, folks. You can muse over it over the weekend, and then we come back on Monday. Let's go to Betty. Betty, 30 seconds, my dear, beautiful Betty.
Okay. I want to say to the big gun, Sandy, you are a good Samaritan. So is 90.1 in my special 6 to 7 morning. It's called Give and Help. We are the big guns that Trump hates. Don't take any money from Moneybags Musk, from Trump. They will always use it against you. Stay proud. Trump wakes up every morning to make he doesn't make a move. And he makes 2 calls, one to his psychic and one to his shyster lawyers.
Thank you, beautiful. Love you too, Betty. Love you too, Betty. Love you too, Betty. I want to give a big thank you to Brian out of Houston. Thank you so kindly, Brian. We're getting a little closer, but we're still far off, folks. Please give a call, 713-526-5738. Anthony, 30 seconds. I got to hold us to 30 seconds because we got some more to cover. Okay, Anthony's not. Yeah, there you go. You're on, Anthony.
Yeah, we're talking about Medicare and Medicaid. My sister's on Medicaid. She's been on it for years. She's got a lot of health issues. This is going to be devastating to America. It really irks me that the Republican Party has branded themselves as the party of the evangelicals and, the Christian whatever. But what they're doing is not following the teachings of Jesus Christ. We're here to help the poor. We're here to help the disadvantaged. We're not here to take money out of their pockets and put it into the billionaire class.
There you go. And you nailed it right there, Anthony. I'm going to have to cut you there, but you're absolutely right, my brother. Let's go to Brother Bard. Brother Bard, 30 seconds.
Good morning, sir. I was wondering if you could answer a question is why did Joe Biden put $2 billion into an account for Stacey Abrams, that failed governor from Georgia?
Next call. We don't take lies on this stuff. Next call. Let's go to Brian. Brian, come on in. Your 30 seconds.
Good morning. I didn't understand what you told Bart there. You don't take...
either make her case or you got to get off. Make her case. You got 30 seconds.
Okay, well, what he said is true.
Next call. Okay, let's go. Let's get busy. Folks, we are here to solve problems, not to create conspiracy theories and lies that are put out by the right for those who are gullible enough to receive it or to accept it. We can't. The times are too serious right now. These are very serious times, and Americans are getting hurt. I will not. While people are getting hurt, you heard Anthony. Anthony is in crisis mentally right now because of what on the unknowns that he has with Medicaid for his sister. And we're going to talk ridiculous, insidious lies put out by the right for the gullible who accepts it. Let's talk real people. Let's talk having empathy for people. Let's talk love. Let's not talk that crap that we just heard from two of my friends, Bard and Brian, who are gullible enough to take this. This is serious, people. This is serious. What's happening out there in Washington? Okay, let's talk about Medicare and Medicaid because it is so. But before I get to Medicare and Medicaid, folks, I ask you kindly because this is not a joke. And the reason Brian and Bard, in their privileged lives that they may have a job for now, can be that way and the lack of empathy is because the media that they are listening to, well funded by the billionaires. Don't blame Bard and Brian for those thoughts. It's implanted in them and it was effectively psychologically designed to work with them. These are all things that the Powell Manifesto that you've heard me speak about months ago and all times ago, it was designed to program people the way that Brian and Bard have been programmed by misinformation, lies, and the plausibility of those conspiracies that they hear. This is not an accident at all. This is what's called end state capitalism. And this is all forecasted. Richard Wolff speaks about it and all these other folks speak about it. And it harms. It hurts people. So what I'm asking you, my dear brothers and sisters, to please, we need to keep informed stuff available. And the way we do it is keeping programs like this on air. So once again, I ask, please provide support however you can. $5 a month, $10 a month. All of that helps. When we work as a collective, when we work together, we can make a difference. And what we are going through right now has a lot to do with us learning not to work together, not to work as the collective that we are. Now, Donald Trump came on Fox News and he looked into the eyes of all of you and said, we are not going to touch Medicare and Medicaid. That's what he said. But at the same time, he says he prefers the framework of the plan that is currently being circulated by the Republican House of Representatives in Washington over what the Senate has proposed. The Senate has no cuts in Medicare and Medicaid, et cetera, et cetera. The House bill has $800 billion of cuts to Medicaid. A lot of people think I have my private insurance. So what? They may not think they need to be empathetic to those poor people on Medicaid. It's not just poor people on Medicaid. Medicaid is responsible for those nursing homes that you see a lot of people on Social Security on. Medicaid is responsible for all those disabled kids that, you know, my wife drives around on the bus here in Kingwood to take to their different schools. They are on Medicaid because they are uninsurable by the private sector. They are uninsurable by the private sector because the private sector only does things that makes them a profit, and disabled people don't make them a profit. So those are the people on Medicaid. Poor people, disabled people, people that are uninsurable. And that is what Donald Trump, as he went to Fox News and said, I am not cutting Medicaid. He goes on and tells his minions, we don't want, and he puts it's in his tweet, it's on Truth Social. He says he prefers the plan from the House that cuts $800 billion in Medicaid. And then he claims he's not going to touch Medicare, which again, all of you pay for Medicare, that 3% that you pay on your salary every day, that is Medicare. That's a Medicare bill. Okay? That's a Medicare bill that all of us pay into. Now he wants to keep taking that money out, but cutting the program, claiming to take out waste, etc. But the person that he hired to work on OMB and the other places that control your Medicare is the person who is pushing private health care from government dollars for Medicare. They want to drop standard Medicare and just work with Medicare Advantage, which costs more than Medicare. But what they intend to do is, because it's a private sector, is give less money to each of these private sector insurance companies that's running Medicare Advantage, which they want to standardize. And then they tell you what doctor to see, what medicines you can't and can take, and also what services you will no longer be able to have. That doctor that you're used to, sorry, c'est la vie. Folks, look, we're not asking if this is true here. This is what he's actually said. And all we are doing is, as opposed to spinning it as a lie that you hear on right-wing media, is to tell you what to expect. Now, last night, one of our senior members at the PDR Posse, that's the Politics Done Right Posse. We have a group of folks that we call a PDR Posse that always get together online and talk, etc. She called me yesterday and she was giving me suggestions for the show. And she said one thing. She said, Egberto, we need to do more of this to inform folks. And then she said one thing that turned me on. She said, remember, a lot of people are feeling despair. A lot of you out there are feeling despair. Can we really do anything? He's already in office. And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. First of all, you have to be informed. And that's what we are doing, informing, letting people know what it is. The second thing to do is, what is the modus operandi? What are the things that we need to do? And the thing about it is, your Republican congressperson is important right now. Your Democratic congressperson is important right now. Trump is all up there by him lonesome, but you have the ability. We are there to teach. You have the ability to go out there and let them know that if they vote these programs, that ultimately, folks, that things will change. So, folks, what I'm asking you here is, we have to be able to inform enough people. And we can only do that if we can stay in the game. And we can only stay in the game if you help us do that. And how do you do that? And give whatever you can. $5 a month, $10 a month, $15 a month, a T-shirt for $100, a Politics and Right T-shirt for $100, whatever you can. Right? But give whatever you can. We need you now. America needs you now. And this isn't hyperbole. This isn't salesmanship. This is as raw as I can say it right now, folks. We have to be the ones with the solution. It's not going to be going to Blue Star or one of these things. We have to do the work. As as my PDR Posse member said last night, despair is solved by action. Elon Musk comes out and he puts on his website that he has saved $16 billion. Of course, when you have investigative reporters doing their job, as in this case, the New York Times did, it turns out that they didn't save that much money. In fact, it was something on the order of between $5.5 million and $8 million was the real saving from one big contract. Whatever the case is, however it's divided, they saved very little, that is, over DOGE. But Elon Musk is telling you that they did better. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
DOGE recently posted a list of the government contracts it has canceled on its website, itemizing what it says is $16 billion in savings in what it calls a wall of receipts. Yet an investigation by the New York Times found almost half of those line item savings could be attributed to a single $8 billion contract for the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. Furthermore, according to the paper, it appears that the DOGE list vastly overstated the actual intended value of that contract. A closer scrutiny of a federal database shows that a recent version of the contract was for $8 million and not $8 billion. In addition,
okay.
It's kind of a,
so this
is that a typo?
Dr. Evil stuff. Yeah.
I think it was a typo.
$1 million.
Yeah.
$1 billion.
In addition, the Times notes that since $2.5 million had already been spent on the contract, it's likely that canceling it saved $5.5 million at most.
Wait, okay, so instead of $8 billion, so instead of $8 billion, it saved $5.5 million. Okay, got it.
Right. And a spokeswoman for DOGE did not respond to the paper's request to explain their accounting. Joining us now, former Biden White House infrastructure coordinator and former Democratic mayor of New Orleans, Mitch Landrieu.
You understand, as Ross Perot would say, where the rubber hits the road, where we can talk sort of generally, theoretically about government cuts. We can talk generally, theoretically about waste, fraud, and abuse. And we all want to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. We've spent our lives, I know you have too, trying to find it and get rid of it. But then you talk about these random cuts where, as somebody said, you measure once, you cut 2, 3, 4 times. And suddenly people are really, working Americans are really feeling the impact of these cuts.
Well, this is where you can find out whether somebody is just talking the talk or walking the walk. When I became mayor of New Orleans, 3 weeks after the BP oil spill hit, we had been through Katrina, Rita, Ike, Gustav, the national recession, and the BP oil spill. My government was $100 million in the hole out of a $460 million budget. I had to cut 20% out of a budget in 6 months. I don't know anybody else in the country that's ever done that. But what I found is you better not cut stupid. You got to cut smart, and you got to cut thoughtful. The American public can understand this. Joe, you look like a pretty fit guy. If I told you that you needed to lose 30% of your body weight and I did it by cutting off your leg, you would bleed to death, essentially. So the last thing you want to do is put an unaccountable billionaire bureaucrat in charge where there's no transparency and have them just cut in a chaotic way that's going to affect the real lives of people. So if you're cutting firefighters in an area where there are fires, or if you're cutting food inspectors, or you're cutting avian inspectors where there's a bird flu, or you're actually starting to cut things that really, really matter in people's lives, people go, what the hell are you doing? I mean, damn it, that doesn't make any sense. And that's what's happening right now. And I think the American people are getting wind of the fact that they're not even telling the truth about what they're trying to do, much less doing it well.
So here it is. We have this group of misfits starting from the top, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, who both look like they have some sort of a cognitive problem, going into these organizations that have been in existence for decades and think they can go in with a whole bunch of snotty-nosed kids and clean things up. They can get rid of the fraud. They can't. They could never possibly get rid of the fraud. I tell you what they can do. They can give the belief that they're doing something as they destruct and deconstruct things, so that then the government has to go outside because they've depleted all their experienced people that they've let go. So now they have to go to the private sector who themselves will just use it as that great opportunity to rip them off and cost more. Remember, anytime you bring the private sector into jobs that were functionally set up to be in the public sector, it costs you more money. And it's not anything complicated to figure it out. It's simple math. Because you have profits, if it's not a nonprofit, because you have to make a profit to pay your shareholders and your executive bonuses, it just doesn't work. If you're going to bring a third party nonprofit, even the nonprofits, let's give an example. At one point, the Red Cross was paying its CEO $500,000, a nonprofit. So there are all these machinations that occur where the private sector rips off the public sector. So if Musk really wants to do some efficiency within the government, what he would do is he would go ahead and say, you know what? Let's go ahead and create Medicare for all. You know what? Let's go ahead and stop all these private companies from using Medicare Advantage as a piggy bank to steal from us. You know what? We can go ahead and reduce the Defense Department to buy a whole lot of off-the-shelf stuff instead of paying excessive prices for them. You know what? We can actually consider having less wars. There is so much, if we really wanted to get our bang for the buck in efficiency. It's not laying off government workers. That's not where the efficiency problem is. The efficiency problem is the policies that rip us off. Medicare, having private Medicare, making Medicare Advantage, having private health insurance, all of those things are the things that rip us off. If you want efficiency, we can find efficiency rather quickly. Let's look into doing that, folks. The big lies are out there. USAID is a poorly run organization, and it's ripping the people off, and it's full with a whole bunch of liberal crazies, and on and on and on and on. And now Donald Trump and his minions has decimated the USAID, an organization that does so much good around the world. Well, ironically, as USAID is doing great things around the world, and by the way, all those things that it does around the world is actually pre-approved by 3 different agencies: the Congressional Oversight Committee, OMB, and several other organizations that actually validates what it's actually doing. But I digress. All the good that these organizations do, all the material that they purchase, a lot of it comes directly from where, again, right here in the United States, which means that money that is used to fund USAID actually creates economic activity right here in the United States, because a lot of the food that goes over there is food that our hard-working farmers produce. I want you to listen to Joyanne Reid, and then we'll take it on the other side.
It appears as though we have officially reached the find out phase of Donald Trump's presidency, as red states are starting to feel the pain of what actually happens when Trump's plans are put into action. Popular Information is reporting that in Huntsville, Alabama, about 250 customers of a public utilities company received a letter informing them that their account has been debited $100. They say it is a direct result of an executive order signed by Trump that froze a grant meant to assist low-income residents with their energy bills. And Trump's abrupt decision earlier this week to stop minting new pennies may not be going over so well in heavily Republican Greene County, Tennessee, home to the nation's sole manufacturer of penny blanks. And all of Trump and Elon Musk's dismantling of government programs and slashing federal funds, spoiler alert, that's going to hurt red states too. USAID, for example, has a program called Food for Peace, which spends hundreds of millions of dollars buying goods from American farmers and businesses to distribute around the world to help fight hunger. So gutting the agency means hurting farmers in places like Kansas, where the program was founded. On top of that, you have Republican Senator Mitch McConnell, for years, probably Trump's most notorious enabler, now warning his constituents in an op-ed that the tariffs Trump is promising could have negative consequences for the state's 75,000 family farms that sell their crops around the globe, or the hardworking Kentuckians who craft 95% of the world's bourbon. Or our auto industry. Joining me now is Angelo Carasone, President and CEO of Media Matters, and Antoine Seawright, Democratic strategist. Who would have thunk it, Angelo, that a lot of these cuts willy-nilly being made by some 20-somethings and the normalized Indian hate guy are going to hurt Trump's own base? Is that message, do you think, getting out beyond just local news? You watch the media.
It's not yet. And that's, I think, the top line takeaway here. One is that, and we know where this is going to go, too. So that low-income heating program where those people lost that money, that was straight out of Project 2025. I mean, right in the 900-page book, that was one of the programs that they were targeting. So in effect, Trump is just implementing a lot of the things that they've already written and prepared for, which means we know what's coming next and we know the people that are going to be affected by it, which means there's no excuse for Democrats, for the news media, not to be able to connect the dots. And your question is the important one here, because if we don't help build that connective tissue for his actions to the harms that people are already experiencing, what's going to happen is that because they have narrative dominance and they have that massive megaphone, when people start to ask questions, hey, why is this happening? They're going to blame the deep state, malicious implementation, right? They're going to use that anger and kinetic energy and turn it right back around to gather more power for themselves. So it is both an important opportunity, but we also need to make sure we're telling this story so that we actually prevent them from using it to get stronger.
Absolutely. And, Antoine, you made a video actually that, that sort of walks Democrats through sort of a way to tell this story, not even just on the red state pain, but just on the price increases that everyone is feeling right now. I'm going to play just a little bit of that. Do we have it? Maybe we have a little bit of that.
We will stop inflation. We will make America affordable again. We have tremendous potential in this country.
The president's tariffs are expected to have a major impact on the price American shoppers pay.
Tariffs that could raise prices for many products.
It'll also bring your grocery bill way down.
Consumers can expect to see increases on items like avocados, berries, and meat products.
The word grocery, it sort of means like everything you eat.
With many thanks to our director downtown, Sterling Brown. Here is your article, Antoine. Is Trump ignoring his promises that won him the election? What should Democrats be asking? Where should they be playing that video?
Well, Joy, I can tell you this, as the old African-American proverb tells us quite clearly, we tried to tell y'all. The fact of the matter is what we see now is a governing style of ram, jam, and screw. Ram these government overreach extreme policies down the throats of the American people, jam up the news cycle with multiple things at one time, and screw whatever constituency that will be impacted by these. And quite frankly, I think the American people need to understand that these policies and this government does not just impact Democrats. It does not just impact those who may not have been for Donald Trump. It impacts everyone. In my home state of South Carolina, we better known in many places as the battery capital of the world. The largest investments from the Inflation Reduction Act, perhaps in any other state. We've had 2 or 3 announcements where companies will not produce what they said they were going to produce. Just in Georgia a few weeks ago, the same thing. And so I think what's going to happen at the end of the day, if you look at his extremism, along with what the Republicans want to do in the Congress with this budget cut in terms of Medicaid, people are going to be hurting, and the people who benefit the most are going to hurt the most, in my opinion, those who voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, who's going to gain the most, Angelo, are, Trump and his family. They're already reaping money. They're selling meme coins. They're personally, enriching themselves. Elon Musk is signing himself up for contracts while canceling Medicaid money.
Yeah, I mean, 800,000 people lost money in that deal. They thought they were going to get rich. They thought they were going to make some money off of Trump's momentum, and they lost it. And that's the nature of a lot of these scams. And that's a part, that's the part about this that makes this even more intense, is that it's not just that they're using policies to directly affect people and harm people and transfer wealth. They're also then using their cultural and social influence to then fleece them and pick their other pocket with these with these other gambits, and that and then further align their pockets. And I mean, they are really successfully managing to double dip in the most odious ways.
Remember, Donald Trump promised on day one he was going to bring down inflation. He was going to lower the price of car insurance and all these other things. And here we have prices of egg, gas, and goods and everything in between are still up. And yet his constituents who voted for him on this notion are the ones who are suffering the most. They're not in blue states. They're not in urban cities. They're in rural America. They're in urban America. They're all over the country. And that's why if you look back and reflect on this election, what people understand is it was easier to be angry than it was informed. Because if you were an informed voter in this election, it was not a policy thing that the president put up is going to benefit working class Americans as they thought it would have when we tried to make this idea that the election was going to be about economics and microeconomics in particular. Not one person who voted for him is benefiting from that, except that the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected.
So yes, now there are over $2 billion that our farmers need to be paid, that our farmers' products needs to be delivered. And of course, Elon Musk in his infinite wisdom has stopped that. These guys are screwing things over and over again, laying people off that shouldn't be laid off like they did at the Atomic Agency, where now they're scrambling to find those people that they laid off. Folks, when you want to work within government, you should like government, and you should do it with an attitude of positivity and not that you're attacking those hard workers who work for government. And that is what they're doing right now. That is what they're going to pay the price for, because ultimately speaking, government is not bad. Republican politicians have a good way of, in fact, making government bad, because they depend on making government bad so that they can then use the very inefficiencies to go ahead and add inefficient private sector companies who have a record of ripping off the American people left and, well, I shouldn't say left, right and right is what I should say. The private sector in government has a constancy of ripping off the American people. Folks, we only have a minute left before I got to close this baby down. But remember, even after the show is over, you can go to politicsdoneright.com/PayPal and select either a one-time contribution or, $5 a month, $10 a month, or whatever it is that you want to provide. Even after the live program is over, you can do that. But there's another option. If you look on the screen also, or you're listening on podcasts, you can subscribe to our newsletter. That subscription also brings you into the game. It also makes you an activist in making the change. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, which also brings you a lot of benefits, from the ability to read all of the books that I've written free of charge, plus whatever I write in the future, as well as these podcasts and much, much more. So again, either politicsdoneright.com/PayPal after the show, or politicsdoneright.com/newsletter to become a subscriber of our newsletter. I've given the wrap signal. Studio, real quick, anything you want to say before I jump out?
No, take it on home.
All right, folks, look, love you all. This is Egberto Willies with Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that